do you see any ways of mitigating the risks you mentioned about bad actors and the bad actors, and what was the other one? Sorry.
um, Bad actors and like uh, a humanoid robot like being embedded with like being
Yeah.
able to input your own symbolic universe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the second is really a risk. I feel like it's inevitably going to happen. I
Okay.
think the first place that may happen is the metaverse, because the metaverse is essentially like a symbolic representation of the real universe. And
Oh.
so like you get things there and like you get them to play with each other and like
Another reason not to trust Facebook.
no, Facebook is like in the world of like AI, Facebook is actually the good actor, believe it or not. Like they're like open sourcing their models and
Really?
letting people play with it.
Ah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of interesting.
Getting
Um,
back that equity they lost.
yeah, I don't know.
Mm. Mm.
I'm not the best person because I'm an optimist.
Mm.
And an optimist is not the best person to think about all the way things could go wrong.
Fair enough.
But
And yeah.
the way that OpenAI wants you to think about it is they want you to regulate this industry. Okay?
Yeah.
And they want to regulate it because likely they understand that in the long term they do not have a competitive like data like they don't have a competitive advantage. Like if GPU costs keep getting cheaper and cheaper, open source models will start winning. So
Mm.
by regulating the industry, they are getting to set the rules
Mm.
that others have to follow to
Mm.
win. So that's like it's a great business strategy. If you think about it, it's a
It
great business
is.
strategy.
Yeah, especially the way they've done it. It's just like it's when I saw the Congress hearing, I was very confused when he said that, because it's like, wait, is this like a Trojan horse?
Right? Like, why
It
would you
does
want to
feel
regulate your
like that.
industry? Yeah,
Yeah.
because they know that it has to be regulated at a certain point. They're like, why
Hmm.
don't we just set the precedent and like make it so that it's incredibly conducive to us and only
Hmm.
us,
Hmm.
right? So regulation does sound like the easy answer, but there is like a lot of nuance there as well.
Hmm.
Um,
How would they regulate this technology at all?
Apparently, what OpenAI wants people to do is what wants the government to do is to like control the number of people who are training their own artificial intelligences. But they
Never
get to
understand that.
because but they get
Yeah.
to because like they wrote the rules, right?
Yeah. It's like like Congress just passes a law. Just less OpenAI is not included in this bracket.
Yeah. But a few ways. Okay. Now that
Hmm.
you asked the question I'm thinking about. So the way that you test an artificial intelligence is through evaluations. Um, because let's say I come up with something like a GPT-3, GPT-4. How do I know it is actually doing something interesting? Right? You need
Hmm.
some test for it to be able to, for me to be able to uniformly say, like, I can put this model on that test, I can put another model on the same test, another model on the same test, and see how they score, and like based on that, I should be able to tell, right?
Hmm.
So there's different kinds of evaluation benchmarks. There's something called,
Hmm.
I think, Vinograd or something, where in certain sentences where the pronoun is ambiguous by the
Hmm.
rules of language, can an artificial, like a human can tell it because of how we understand it, can
Hmm.
an AI
Hmm.
disambiguate if like the word it means this or that? So that's like,
That's interesting.
so that's an example of an evaluation. There's like many evaluations like that. Some evaluations
Hmm.
are like uh, logical yes nos. Another is like there's a test that it has to like pass. You know, like so these are various
Hmm.
evaluations.
Hmm.
Um, Most of the GPT-4s, like when they publish the results, they are essentially publishing the results of the benchmark. Like on the
Hmm.
BLEU score, like we scored this much versus everybody else scored only this much. So the
Hmm.
benchmarks is how you test your model. So maybe one way of doing it is that the government or some central body creates a centralized set of evaluation models that every neural net needs to go through.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this is not dissimilar to the human biology, where we have immune cells. Immune cells are incredibly powerful. If the immune
Hmm.
cells were left to kind of do their thing and like the control was reduced, they would kill you. They're that powerful. And one of the ways they do that is through uh, B cells, where they're created in the bone marrow. And what
Hmm.
happens is a new cell is created by shuffling together like the genetic code a little bit. Okay, and
Right.
then it kind of goes through like a equivalent of a school where it is trained to pick out invaders. Okay, that's what the genetic recombination is for. Like, are you able to pick out invaders?
Hmm.
But in doing this combination, the combination is random, right? There is a chance that you will recognize as an invader your own body cell.
Hmm.
And if it
Hmm.
does that, if it starts attacking your own body, it's what we call an autoimmune disease. So
Right.
the way that what happens is when it goes through this like conceptual school, um, gets created and then it's tested with various body cells. Like, are you reacting to your own body cells? You are, kill. Only the
Right.
ones that are do not recognize your own body cells are allowed to graduate, because the invaders
Hmm.
will have a different type. So in a similar way, if a government comes up with like an evaluation system which
Hmm.
essentially is able to teach the AI to differentiate between self and like, so like good or bad. Well, it's a very subjective thing, but I do think it's possible. And every model that gets trained, like you have
Hmm.
to, this has to go through this like test. And if it fails that
Hmm.
test, it gets killed.
Right. Interesting.
So
I'm curious,
like
like, what the
that would be a
model would
way.
look out for.
Yeah,
So,
it's
like,
so this is
just to
like
understand,
purely
like,
subjective.
oh shit. Yeah. Hello. My internet
Yeah,
cut
yeah,
out.
okay.
India. Jai Hind. But like, oh man, that's so. Understanding that though. So let's say like what would it look out for? That was the question. What would it look out for?
I don't know. That's like purely
Speculative.
not speculative. I do think that that's a good method, but I don't know what the test would include. Maybe something like
Yeah.
the three laws of Asimov's robotics. You cannot harm another human. You cannot, by inaction, let a human come to harm, and you
Hmm.
cannot, even at the directive of a human, like kill
Yeah.
yourself. And that is the order of the
Yeah.
laws, right? Maybe some equivalent version of that tested out in like an evaluation benchmark where you give it a test and you ask it to
Hmm.
like output like what would you do in this scenario, and if it says I would kill the
Right.
human, that's like a negative mark against it. So like you
Yeah.
come,
It's
you
it's
get what the
it's
score is,
literally like it's
like the
literally
killing
like
intent score.
yeah. It's like the American judiciary system, like to the criminal justice system. It's like just like a bunch of people get in there like that
Wait,
should
but that's
not
not a
be
bad
there.
idea. But that's not a bad idea at all. Like, get this
What to
thing
incarcerate
to
people?
pass
Oh,
through
sorry.
a judicial, like the stuff that we've come up with constitutionally, that should be the
Hmm.
law that the AI also follows.
Hmm. It's interesting that because it's such a new space as well, we can't fully know what would like, what would a crime be in this case, like, to continue that analogy. Even biology has only learned through evolution, and even it still screws up,
Yeah,
as is the case with
yeah,
autoimmune disease.
yeah, yeah.
Very complicated question. I'm curious, like, if there's any like hardware or other parameters that doesn't rely so much on reason, or like evaluating the AI's ability to sort of harm humanity. that more, let's say, in the line of the raw material space. Like, how can if something on that front can be regulated, if it can?
Hmm. But
I think the
that
weightages might be
little
a
bit kind of, huh?
I think the weightages might be a possibility there. Like, where the way,
No,
if
the
I don't know if you
weightages
can
are
conceive of
really
that, because
hard.
we don't exactly. Hmm. But yeah, like,
It's like
your
there are
thoughts on that?
trillion weights. Like how many are you going to like
Yeah.
control? But the equivalent. So the question that you asked is not dissimilar from saying the hardware question that somebody has access to the chipset on your phone. The
Mm-hmm.
phone, which you consider an extension of yourself, if somebody can
Mm.
go in and switch it off based on some arbitrary way that they have decided to use to judge whether you
Mm.
are using it well or not, they can
Yeah.
just come in and like randomly shut it off and you have no control over it. That's not really
Exactly.
fun, right?
Yeah. Among
So
such an early
I don't
technology.
know, but yes, that is a possibility. It's like what you're saying is, can we have a backdoor in every hardware chip that gets
Mm.
utilized to run inference on neural models, neural nets?
Mm. All right. And I guess worst case scenario, let's say we wanted to blow up this technology, that particular AI. I don't see it going any other way. If you like, if this to shut it down, like I think having that capability is very necessary.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm. Do you think that?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when you try to control progress, you make it's not a good like a lot of our progress has been possible because we make things open and free for people to experiment with, play with. If you start
Hmm.
adding restrictions,
Yeah.
but then look, like we have restrictions around purchase of weapons. So like, clearly this is not like an
Thanks. Only
all
the Americans.
like every single yeah. But like clearly like like there are exceptions. So like certain things
Hmm.
need to be regulated. Like, for
Hmm.
example, acid needs to be regulated in India.
Hmm.
Like when I say acid, I mean not LSD, but like H2SO4, because
Hmm.
or hydrochloric acid, because number of like acid, like
Yeah.
when
Attacks. Ugh.
you know what I'm talking about, right? Like people throw acid on
Yeah.
people's faces and like scarring them for life just because they
Hmm.
rejected their advances or something like that. So like
Yeah.
different things need to be regulated. So like I do think that it's a very nuanced question. Like there's not going to be a clear answer of like it's this or that.
Yeah, fair. The I think the right now we're in such an early stage that speculation is how we eventually figure out the end. Like that
Yeah,
speculation will become
I agree.
concrete. Like even your take on OpenAI and why they're pushing this legislation. Um, that is a very interesting take that I haven't heard before. And even like and looking at it from OpenAI's perspective as well, it's such a good PR. like, oh, we are an ethical
Yeah,
company.
it's great PR. It's a great business strategy as well.
Exactly. Like it's like if Facebook did it the right way. uh, maybe that's maybe a crude analogy, but I can
Yeah.
see it happening. And